and enjoy it as well. So Baylor spring drills begin today. Craig wrote an article in Sic'Em365.com in the premium section about what to look for, and we'll discuss that. And before we get to Grayson, Craig, the competition at quarterback at the very top?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose so. I don't know. I think there's other spots that are equally as important, but of course everybody's going to focus on quarterback. So yeah, I guess that would be at the top in terms of both interest and also, you know, just the battles. I think that's the one that will be the most talked about for sure. But yeah, I mean, we don't know what Blake Shapen's health status is. He was hurt in the Big 12 championship game. We haven't seen him since, outside of just being on the sidelines and with the sling on his arm. So is he healthy enough to participate in spring ball? I mean, are we going to see him out there? We don't even know that yet. We'll know in a couple hours, or I guess in about an hour, we'll figure that out. Gary Bohannon's back. He was the starter to begin the year until he got hurt, and then Sic'Em led him to the the stretch run, and then Bohannon was back for the Sugar Bowl, and they didn't win that game because of him. They won that game because of big defense and a running game. So I don't think he did anything when he came back to go, oh, yeah, he's definitely going to be the starter next year. I think it's completely wide open with Shapen and Bohannon being the two strongest candidates because they played the most. But I'm really curious to see if Kyron Jones can maybe make it interesting and what kind of steps he's taken. And I don't think that there should be, if you're Dave Aranda, just a guy and then everybody else. I think it's wide open. I don't think there was anything that you saw offensively last year where you go, oh, yeah, we're good. We don't really need – no, they need somebody that's going to be able to come in here and not have to rely solely on the running game to get things going. They need a guy who can sling it around, and we saw some of that from Shapen. We saw a little bit of that from Gary, but we also saw a lot of not so good in that regard as well. So, yeah, that's a spot that they need to figure out, and good news is they've got about a handful of candidates, so really three main guys, but here the battle starts, and the battle's kind of been underway in the weight room, but now they get back on the field.
Yeah, outside of look, the top two ball carriers are both not going to be there, so that's going to be a change. The top three pass catchers are not going to, at least wide receivers are not going to be there. I know Ben Sims is back, but so you've got changes all over the field, just in the skill positions, and then that's not even before we get to defense. I do think what the last two games of the season, nothing else before that, like Blake Shapen playing against TCU or any of that withstanding. What the Big 12 championship and the Sugar Bowl showed is that Baylor has a quarterback competition. And Blake Shapen played really, really well in the Big 12 championship game until he got dinged. And Gary Bohannon did not play well in the Sugar Bowl. So that leads you to believe that there should be some sort of competition. Not to say that it won't be a good one, but yeah.
If Bohannon hadn't gone down, would there have been a quarterback competition? Yeah. Had he not? Because he was the guy. Now, there would have been in the spring, regardless of injuries or who was in and out or not. But I'm sure because you want that. You want to be pushed. You want those who are maybe not starters to push whoever are the starters to where it's hard to make that decision. But when he went down, that gave us a glimpse of what Shapen can do, and maybe some in practice had already been seeing that.
I mean, there's a lot of what-ifs you can do. I mean, what if Gary Bohannon stays healthy? Do they make the Big 12 title game? Because I don't know that they do. I mean, they had two losses when he went down. And, those other games, that Tech game was awfully close. We don't know how that would have played out. We don't know how the Big 12 title game would have played out if Gary would have played most of that game, because that game, the Big 12 title game in particular, was Blake Shapen giving them a big lead early on with some help from the defense as well, and then being able to hold on to that and scrape together enough at the end to be able to get stops, not scores, to win that game. So, yeah, I mean, maybe if Gary Bohannon doesn't go down, then he never loses that job. But maybe if that happens, then they finish the season with 3 or 4 losses, and they're not, defending Big 12 champions and Sugar Bowl champions. So, yeah, it's a curious puzzle right now. What you've got in Gary, but how much better has he gotten? What's he improved upon? Shapen, again, first, the big question is health, but where's he gotten better, if at all, and what's he improved on? And I'm just really curious to kind of hear, Dave Aranda's comments, and if we get the opportunity to talk to Sean Bell, which I think we will. I think I saw that on the schedule. I don't know. Maybe I misread that.
Yeah, but I think it's Thursday.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So we'll talk to him, and I'm just curious to kind of hear their comments and then be able to go back and listen and, try to see if there was maybe a little more of an indication, kind of read between the lines a little bit. But, I said this in the article, I'm under no illusion that we'll have a starting quarterback named by the end of spring. I just don't think that they will probably do that. And, we'll see how it goes. It took them all the way up to basically right before the season last year to go ahead and name Bohannon the starter. But, yeah, I think it should be completely wide open from my vantage point.
What is so ironic is everyone knew, well, really, we didn't know until about a week ago. Baylor football put something out that you could tell that maybe spring drills was starting in 6 days, and then David Kay at Athletic Communications gave us sent us an email that officially Tuesday, the 22nd, would be the day that spring drills started. But it's like, what if they didn't start for another week or two after what happened over the weekend in basketball? There's kind of this, I know there's baseball, there's softball, whatever, but it would have been kind of this lull, and there's still going to be a little bit of that when the games start to pick up at the end of the week. But this was great timing, and it, to me, would give football, which has earned it anyway, no matter what men's and women's basketball were doing, it earned it because of what they did. And it should be that way at a big boy program, which it proved to be. Is my laptop on fire? I think my laptop just went on.
When you light the candles, you're supposed to blow them out, but we forgot that.
We forgot to do that. Now there's 3 U's or 3 rabbits in front of our candle. But it's kind of full throttle on football.
Yeah, I'm ready for it. And yeah, basketball was set to take the headlines more so over the next few weeks as far as what we were planning on. But that's not the case. They both bowed out. So, yeah, it's now on to football. And I brought this up with Grayson earlier, and, we kind of see the same point here. Although I know it feels a little bit differently about it, but I was just thinking last night, Baylor should have another good defense once again, but I don't think that this is going to be a Big 12 where you can just rely on your defense to win you games every time. And they kind of did that last year. And if they weren't relying solely on their defense, they were relying obviously on their offensive line, but mostly on their running game. I mean, what games did they go out and just pass their way to victories last year? Like none of them, right? So now you look around the Big 12. Okay, Texas, you got Sark and his offense. You got Xavier Worthy and Bijan Robinson back. They just spent millions of dollars on a new O-line. Now, granted, a bunch of freshmen coming in might not be up to task right away, but they did spend money on an O-line, and Quinn Ewers is this big, hot prodigy, so you would think their offense is going to be a lot better than it was. Oklahoma brings in Jeff Lebby, so here comes the Ole Miss, Baylor, Briles offense, and he brings in Dylan Gabriel, who they helped torch records, a few years back. So I would think Oklahoma will be ready for Bear offensively and with up-tempo. West Virginia went and hired Graham Harrell, so they're going to be running the air raid. Texas Tech goes and they're going to be running the Western Kentucky offense, which broke records. Now, they don't have Bailey Zappi, but they have gotten a couple of the Western Kentucky offensive linemen through the transfer portal. Another guy I forgot to mention with Texas, Isaiah Nayor, an incredible wide receiver who a lot of people probably don't know about because he played at Wyoming, but he's very, very good. And TCU, Sonny Dykes with his style of offense. I mean, there's another one that will be looking to score a lot of points. I mentioned West Virginia with Harrell. Kleiman, you bring in Adrian Martinez to K-State, so they're not going to be one that's like probably throwing it around a ton, but they're going to be a lot more dangerous, in terms of what they could potentially do with him because he is a great runner. Now, the passing, I know, but still, that's going to give them another wrinkle and just so on and so forth. So I think you've seen the Big 12 make a bunch of strides or moves on the offensive side of the ball that leads me to believe that this is going to be more of an offensive-focused conference. I think it was more defensive, obviously, last year. A lot of that had to do with quarterback play. But you look at the transfers and the hires and all of that, I think this is going to be a conference that's ready to play a lot better offense in 2022.
Yeah, it's not going to go back to what it was, but it's going to be much more efficient, much more prolific, you would think, because back in the day, you didn't have to play much defense to win, and I think you still have to win a championship with whoever has the best combination of both.
Yeah, well, and look, Oklahoma State's still going to have Spencer Sanders, and they're still going to do, probably what they did last year, which maximized his abilities really well. I mean, and took away the mistakes that had plagued him throughout the earlier parts of his career. And look, Iowa State is going to be on an island kind of doing what they do, but that's what Matt Campbell does. He's not, I don't think he's out there, sweating like, oh my God, I got to get a guy who runs the spread. He's going to do what he's done all this time. And so it'll be interesting. Baylor's going to run the wide zone, and that can be a big time offense. We saw it at BYU. It wasn't a, when you have a guy getting drafted second overall at quarterback, it's not because he's good at